Hello everyone, welcome back to our session on class Reptilia. So in the last sessions we discussed about the classifications and examples of class Reptilia, and in this session we are going to see a key for identifying poisonous and non-poisonous snakes. Majority of the snakes found in South India are considered to be non-poisonous, and about the poisonous and non-poisonous species found in India. Again, only 20 percentage of which are found to be poisonous, and these includes a few species of sea snakes, and the rest are land snakes. All the sea snakes are poisonous, and among the terrestrial poisonous snakes, the most venomous are the viper, the krait, the cobra, and the coral snakes. The following characters, which we'll discuss in the key, can be taken into consideration to distinguish between the common poisonous snakes from the non-poisonous snakes. So, coming to the key, which we are going to see or discuss here. So, this is a key for which we are going to identify poisonous and non-poisonous snakes. So, the first character that is taken into consideration. So, this can be considered as a flow chart for which how we'll be distinguishing poisonous from non-poisonous snakes. So, first is we observe the tail. So, if the tail is pointed and elongated, so it can be considered or pointed and elongate. It needs to be identified as a land snake. It can be either poisonous or non-poisonous. So we need to look at other features to identify or to correctly identify whether it is poisonous or non-poisonous. And if the tail is not pointed or cylindrical like this, if it is flattened and compressed tail, it can be identified as a sea snake, which is deadly poisonous. And coming to the if the tail is cylindrical, we need to see the other features. The next feature that is to be seen is the scales on the ventral side, or specifically the scales on the belly region. So if the scales on the belly region are small scales, which is similar to the scales on the dorsal side, it can be considered as non-poisonous snakes. And if also if the scales are narrow and they do not cover the entire ventral side. So there are scales, or there are two types of scales here that you can see in the ventral side in this particular diagram. So you can see a row of scales which is in the center, and you can see small scales which is lining the sides of the ventral region. That means a single scale is not covering the entire ventral region, and if that is the case also, you can identify it as a non-poisonous snake. And coming to the another feature, that is, if the ventral scales cover the entire length of the ventral side of the belly, it can be a feature of a poisonous or a non-poisonous snake. And in such a case, we need to see, or we need to look the other features. So if this is the case, we go for looking observe the head, and observing the head. If the head is having small scales on the head, very small scales on the head, that can be identified as the poisonous snake viper. So this is a feature of viper. So viper you can identify with other features also. The head will be triangular. The head is more or a triangular in the case of viper, and the scales on the head or and the entire body, they will be having smaller scales compared to larger shields which is seen in the other snakes. They are having smaller scales all over the body, and if the head is triangular with the feature of small scales on the head, you can confirm it as viper, which is poisonous. And another feature of viper is a pit, which is seen posterior, or a scene which is at the lower part of the eye, anterior to the eye and posterior to the nostril. In below the eyes and below the nostril, you can see a pit or a hole which is called as a loreal pit, and if that is present, that is also a feature of viper, which is pit viper, which is also poisonous. If the head does not have these two features, and if the head is having larger shields, not smaller scales, apart from that there are larger shields like this, it can be a snake which is either poisonous or non-poisonous. We need to look onto the other features. So the other features that is to be looked onto is the next one, which is the third supralabial. That is, if you can see a particular shield, a larger scale, which is called as a shield, if a larger scale or a shield is present, which is the third supralabial shield, it touches the eye and the nostril. If there is a large shield starting from the tip or the eyes till the nose, we can see this blackly marked region. If this is present, this can be identified as cobra. In other non-poisonous snakes, you can see that this type of scale will be present throughout this area. This large scale will be absent. If this large scale is absent, it can be identified as cobra. Both Indian cobra as well as the king cobra is having this feature, which is poisonous. Another feature that is to be observed regarding the scales is that if you have to see if this is not present, if this is of the same type of scale in this particular region, go observe the dorsal side and the scale at the vertebrals. That means in the center, in the dorsal side, whether there is any special feature for the scales which is passing through the center of the back. If those scales are hexagonal, the other scales will have the shape of the normal scales, and if this central or the vertebral scales are in the shape of a hexagon, it can be confirmed as crate, which is poisonous. Crates are having this particular feature, that is the vertebrals are hexagonal. And another feature of crate is that their infralabials, that means the scale which is seen behind or at the rear part of the head region, you can see 2 or 3 larger or the very big scales can be seen in this region. And if that is present also, the infralabials are very large, that is being shaded here. That is also a feature of crate, which is poisonous. So this is a key to identify between the poisonous as well as the non-poisonous snake. So to get a clear view, we will look at the pictures which are shown here. So if you take this one, so we are considering the first one, which is the tail. In the case of tail, we discussed that if the tail is cylindrical, pointed tail, it can be poisonous or a non-poisonous snakes like this. So this is a tail which is pointed like this. This is a non-poisonous one, which is a python. It is also having a pointed tail. This is a viper. This is also having a pointed tail. So both the poisonous as well as non-poisonous land snakes will have such a tail, which is a pointed scale as shown here. Coming to the other one, which is flat and laterally compressed tail, it is poisonous sea snake. You can see here it is flat and laterally compressed. So most or every sea snakes is having such a type of scale such a type of tail like this, which is flat and laterally compressed. As you see here in the 3 examples which is shown here, they are having such a type of tail which is really flat and it is laterally compressed, which can be clearly distinguished from the normal pointed tail of the land snakes. So if this is the case, if we get a snake and if it is having a pointed tail rather than the flat one, if it was a flat one, we would confirm it as a sea snake. And if it is a pointed one, we have to look on to the other feature. And the other feature that will be that we'll be looking onto is, so we checked with the tail, and next is we are going to see about the ventrals. So coming to the ventral scales or the scales of the belly, we said that if the belly scales are having, or it is smaller scales as that of the normal scales of the body, it is an feature of a non-poisonous snake. This is another feature of a non-poisonous snake where the belly scales are not covering the entire ventral width. You can see here. So this is the middle row of scales, and also on both the lateral sides you can see smaller scales. This is also a feature of non-poisonous snake. So this is also a feature of a non-poisonous snake. Coming to the other one, in some snakes you can see that in the in the ventral side, the scales, they cover the entire ventral side. In this case also you can see that the scales is covering the entire ventral region. And in this case, this one is a non-poisonous snake, this one is poisonous, this is king cobra. So the belly scales covering the entire width can be of a poisonous or non-poisonous snake. So if this two were the case, we could identify it as a non-poisonous snake. If these are the case, we have to check again for other features. So the other features that we are going to check is, after the ventral scales, we are moving on to the head. What about the head, whether it is having small scales, etc. Moving on to the head. So this is the head. Regarding the head, so as we said, if the head is having very smaller scales like this, so you can see here it is the smaller scales, and this can be, or this is confirmed to be vipers. Vipers are having such a type of scales in the head, and you can see it is more or less triangular. The head of viper is more or less triangular and with very smaller scales in the head. The entire body is having more or less the same type of scales, and if that is a feature that is confirmed as viper. Another feature is the presence of this loreal pit. So you can see here the pit. So this is the pit. So you can see this particular thing which is called as a loreal pit. Loreal pit is seen anterior to the eye and lower, or lower anterior. The position is said to be anterior to the eye but lower in position, behind the nostrils, or posterior the nostrils and behind and below the nostrils. So it has having a position which is below the eyes and nostrils, anterior to the eyes and posterior to the nostril. So if such a pit is present, that is called as a loreal pit, and if that is also present, that is confirmed as the pit viper, which is venomous. Coming to the other features of the head, if the head is having larger scales, you can see here these two are non-venomous snakes. This is our the green whip snake, and this one is a rat snake. This one is king cobra. So in every case, you can see that the heads are having larger scales. So larger scale can be the feature of a poisonous snake as well as that of a non-poisonous snake. In that case, we have to go back and check for the other feature, whether it is poisonous or not. And the other feature is nothing but we have completed the observation of the head, or the key with the head. And next we have to see whether they are having such different type of scales to be identified as cobra or crate. So moving on to that, this is the shields. So first one, the third supralabial shield, if it touches the eye and the nostril. So this one is the third supralabial. So as you can see here, so this one is the third supralabial, so which is marked here. You can see here, this is also marked here. So this is with king cobra, the same as with the normal cobra. So you can see a scale which is marked now. So that that shield will be that is a third supralabial. It touches the eye as well as the shield of the nostril, or the nostril region. If that is present, if such a large one is present, that can be confirmed as cobra. Either it might be king cobra or the normal cobra. So that is poisonous. Another identification with the shields is that observe the vertebrals, as we said earlier. So this is the dorsal side, and this is the central, or the region where the vertebral column passes. That is why this is called as the vertebrals, or the vertebral scales. So you can see here they are clearly marked. The vertebrals, if it is hexagonal, so in this you can see clearly the demarcation of the hexagonal vertebral scales. If this is hexagonal, or the ventral or the dorsal vertebral scales are hexagonal, that is definitely confirmed to be the poisonous snake, which is crate. Another feature of crate is this one, as we said earlier, the infralabials. So the infralabials here, they are very large. This one are the two infralabials which are very large. Here also you can see the two large infralabials. If this is present, this also confirm it to be a crate. So this is the key by which you can identify a poisonous or a non-poisonous snake. So we have set the features to identify the common poisonous snakes around us. Cobras can be identified by these features, either the presence of this particular infralabial, or you can easily identify them with the presence of the hood. If the hood is present, both the normal spectacled cobra, which we see around us, as well as the king cobra, they when they are agitated, they raise their body and they show their hood. The hood is more conspicuous in the case of Indian cobra, which is the normal spectacled cobra, but it is not such conspicuous in the case of king cobra. But king cobra also raises its body from the surface, and also it has a very small hood compared to that of the normal Indian cobra. So that is one feature by which we can distinguish our cobra from the or to identify cobra. Next one is viper. We said vipers can be identified mainly by seeing the feature of their head. If it is triangular, and the scales on their body, if the body and the head is having the same scales, you can identify it as viper. And you can also search for the L'Oreal pit which is present. So that is another identifying feature. And coming to the other poisonous snake, which is crate, we said that it is having the hexagonals in the vertebral, hexagonal scales in the vertebral, and this infralabial, which identifies crate. Crate can also be identified by their this markings. That's why in our local language we call it as Vellikettan, Shanguvareyan, etc., because of this banding pattern. So this banding pattern is also a feature of crate. Crate can be identified by looking for this banding pattern. So usually there is a confusion regarding the banding pattern, because banding pattern is also observed for a non-poisonous snake, which is called as the wolf snake. The wolf snake also show this particular banding pattern, and the banding pattern, but you can clearly distinguish between the wolf snake as well as the crate or this Vellikettan or Shangwaren, etc. So this can be identified. The Lycodon or the wolf snake and crate can be identified from their banding pattern. In that, our wolf snake, which is non-poisonous, it is having this type of banding, this white banding that you see here. This type of banding in wolf snake is seen only in the anterior region. But in the case of the poisonous snake rate, this banding pattern can be seen throughout the body. So that is how you distinguish between the Lycodon as well as the non-poisonous Lycodon or wolf snake and with the crate, because they show some common feature. That the common feature is this banding pattern. If the banding pattern is seen throughout the body, that is crate. If it is confined only to the anterior region, that is identified as the non-poisonous snake, which is the wolf snake. Again, coming to, so this is another so the other poisonous snake that we see around is the sea snakes. We could identify, or we can easily identify sea snake by the tail. No other features are required for them. Observe the tail. If it is flattened and laterally compressed, confine it as a sea snake, which is poisonous. And coming to a short description of the poison fang, and so poison fang and the venom gland. So this is the poison gland, and this is the poison fang, which is the teeth, which is through which you have they have a teeth, and over to that particular teeth-like structure, the gland, the duct from the venom gland is ending in this particular teeth-like structure, which is teeth, which is called as a poison fang. So this is a poison fang of viper. Okay, so whenever they are, or they get agitated and they are going to bite a prey, the venom gland, it compresses. There are compressor muscles here. It compresses. The venom moves to the duct through the poison fang. It is ejected into the prey, or ejected into whatever the prey, or it's as a defensive mechanism. So this is the structure of the venom gland and the present. This is absent in the case of this poison fang is absent in the case of a non-poison snake. They do not have this poison fang, or the poison gland is absent in their case. And coming to the poison of the snake poisons, they can be classified into two categories. Either the poison can be a neurotoxin, which paralyzes our respiratory system, the diaphragm, etc. As a result, we suffer from asphyxia, and that will result in death. The other category or the other subdivision of a poison is the hemotoxin, which destroys our RBCs. That also result in death because our oxygen carrying capacity decreases slowly, and the broken RBCs, they obstruct the blood vessels, mainly the blood vessels in the kidney, that destroys the kidney functioning of the kidney, that obstructs major arteries. So that is how the hemotoxin works, by destroying RBCs. And the other one, the neurotoxin, it mainly paralyzes the major muscle, and the major one is diaphragm, which is affected primarily, and that's why usually such venom, it affects or it leads to death by due to asphyxia. Coming to the poison of the common poison snakes, our cobras, both the king cobra as well as the Indian cobra, their poison or their toxinous, their poison is clear viscous fluid resembling an olive oil, and it is neurotoxin, usually paralyzes the respiratory center, which results in death. The same is the case with king cobra. Their poison is also the venom is also uh, neurotoxin, and the major difference is that the quantity of venom which is discharged per bite in king cobra, it is equal to 10th lethal dose to man. That means in one bite in a man, it discharges a dose which can kill 10 men or 10 people. So that is why the death due to cobra bite occurs uh, it takes less time than that of the other other venom or other snake venoms. Their virulence is less than that of normal cobra, and death usually occurs within 15 to 20 minutes. And that is because of the amount of, or the dose of the venom that is injected into the body by king cobra. Actually, it is a normal neurotoxin as that of the normal cobra, but here the amount of venom that is being injected is 10 times more. That is why the death occurs more rapidly than that of the other venomous venoms seen in the other snakes. Coming to crate, the bite of crate is usually fatal to man. The venom is more powerful than that of cobra. That means the venom of crate is act as both neurotoxin as well as chemotoxin. It has both the activities. It paralyzes the respiratory system, plus it destroys the blood RBCs. And usually death results from asphyxia. The crate is considered to be the deadliest of all poisonous snakes in the world. And the difference between the poison, as we pointed out, the death or the death because of cobra, the king cobra poison is more rapid because of the amount. But comparing the two venoms, the most venomous is that of crate, because it is having both the activities. It is a neurotoxin as well as a hemotoxin. Coming to viper, the venom of viper is a hemotoxin. It destroys the blood vessels, etc., and internal hemorrhage, pain, vomiting, etc. results from the bite with vipers. So this is regarding a general discussion about the poison fangs, venom, and the type of venom. So with this, we come to the end of our discussion on class Reptilia. So in class Reptilia, we had a very long discussion in the different sessions. In the first sessions, we discussed the salient features of Reptilia, which was followed by their classification. We saw the different subclasses coming under class Reptilia with their examples. And last, a general topic regarding a key regarding the identification of poisonous and non-poisonous snake, and a last small section regarding the poison glands and the different types of venom that is being produced by the so here I use the term poison. Actually, the most apt term is venom. It is a mistake. So the actually it is a venom gland. So consider it as a mistake. It is a venom gland rather than it can be called as a poison gland. It is a venom rather than a poison. So thank you for listening.